Hey guys, it's Evan Prince, and welcome back to the Retro Room, where we sift through that collection of old games and find one worth talking about. Only rule is that it has to be at least 10 years old. Recently, this channel has been overtaken by Halo due to the recent release of my Halo Combat Evolved retrospective. So, since we're on the subject of Bungie games, let's talk about one of their least known ones, ONI. Released for the PS2 in collaboration with Rockstar Games, ONI is a third-person action shooter game set in a futuristic sci-fi world. While it's technically a Bungie game, it was actually developed by a satellite studio called Bungie West, not the core team known for the other titles like Halo. This was the only game ever made by Bungie West before Microsoft bought Bungie and Bungie West was closed. As for the game itself, man, it's something. I've never seen anything like it. The aesthetic is unapologetic and downright badass. Everything is rooted in this classic 90s Japanese anime aesthetic, and I kinda love it. Each character has like an anime profile picture that pops up when they talk, and it's like something you'd see in a JRPG. The entire game is dripping with this look too. Like each character's design, their dialogue, even the story itself feels like something that was ripped straight out of an old Japanese anime DVD. So much so that I think this would have been better as an anime than as a video game. For all of its flair, inspiration, and style, ONI has equal parts drab, uninspired, and downright unfinished areas. I say this a lot about games, but I keep seeing it be the case. This game doesn't feel done. It feels like I'm playing a beta build. So much so, in fact, that I'm not convinced this isn't just an unpolished build that they had to ship to meet deadlines. Let's start with looking at the UI. After booting up the game, we get a fantastic splash screen for Rockstar Games, which misled me to believe I was about to be treated to something stylish and finished. Then we get a really cool Bungie splash screen too. Then we get this badass opening clip, and after all that, this is what we get. Look, I'm not trying to be harsh, but this is a dreadful looking main menu. Like this isn't something you ship paired with those awesome splash screens and openings. This looks like a placeholder menu. And it doesn't get better from here either. The user interface of this game is bar none the worst part of it, and it's constant. I'll point it out more as I see it, but it's just got a disgusting user interface design. Then we're off to such a rough start for the game. Let me preface all of what I'm about to say with this. I think this game has a ton of cool stuff to offer. We're getting to it, but this opening is awful. Our first look and introduction to this stylish anime-inspired action-adventure game is a tutorial. Not just any tutorial, it's a tutorial that's like 10 minutes long. It holds your hands through the whole thing, forces you to wait and watch before you can participate. It's just terrible. This feels more like a testing room for the game's mechanics than it does a genuine tutorial, and should have never been put in the game. Instead of a tutorial, it should have opened with something intense and fun that lets you learn the controls while feeling like you're in the action. Make it fun. Look at this, dude.
Now you're ready to train with a sparring partner. Let's proceed to the first combat training room. Don't worry, he won't fight back. This training drone will help you learn about blocking attacks so they can stagger these different combos.
Just let me play the game! Okay, so bad start. We're finally out of that tutorial now. Maybe we can get into some real action.
Listen, Kanoko.
Are you kidding me? What is this level design? What is this silence? The entire first mission is like this, by the way. In fact, most of the missions are like this. There's no music except for a short track near the beginning or the end of the level. There's no ambience. It just feels dead. Watch my first encounter with an enemy.
Hey! Now don't make me hurt you.
What was going on over at Bungie West? They couldn't have added some ambience or something? To make matters worse, the music in this game is actually pretty good. It's just super rare, and it is not written as video game music. It's more like a few regular drum and bass songs were written and then given to the team. Here's a section of the game I've overlaid with the ambient suite from the game itself, but wasn't using at this time. They had ambience. They should have used it so much more, and if this is not enough, then they should have just gotten some royalty-free ambience. I know it was available in packs back then in the early 2000s. Even games like Silent Hill had bits of it. Akira Yamaoka said he even used sample packs to mess with them and help him composing the original Silent Hill's music. Either way, it makes playing it feel barren and dead in a bad way. I played this game on a PS2 emulator, and I know there's a PC version out there, so I went and watched gameplay of that to see if it was any different, and other than looking way better, it had the same music issue. Then there's this first level. It's terrible. It's an ugly interior warehouse, and I don't want you guys to think I'm just hating on this game because it's old. First off, I love old games. Second off, the rest of this game's levels aren't actually so bad. The game design actually gets better and better, but the way the game introduces you to itself is on its worst foot. The tutorial is painful, and this first mission is bland and ugly. I feel like they could have made this level cool too, with just some changes to the audio and some extra assets around the level to make it more interesting to look at. Maybe some cyberpunk looking assets around the level, make it feel like a futuristic warehouse. But instead, it's this drab sequence. And until I learned how to use the compass feature, I was struggling to figure out where to even go. Everything looks the same, which they could have solved with use of lighting and color coding, like painting different rooms in the warehouse different colors or something. They did none of that, so everything looks the same and it's difficult to navigate. Everything hinges on finding these little green terminals that we have to interact with and disposing of anyone standing between us and those terminals. Also, look at this text. This is more of what I was talking about with the UI earlier. This is not meshing with the sleek look that the game was going for. So why are we at this warehouse? Brief overview of the plot. ONI takes place in a dystopian future where most of the world is uninhabitable, and world governments are now one entity presiding over what's left of the livable world. The government is fighting against a large criminal network called the Syndicate. Our main character, codenamed Kanoko, works for the Technological Crimes Task Force, a paramilitary unit specializing in ensuring dangerous technology cannot be acquired and utilized by the Syndicate. Kanoko works for a man named Commander Terrence Griffin and is assisted on her missions by Shinitama, an android referred to in-universe as a Simulated Life Doll, or SLD. The reason Kanoko is at this warehouse is that she is attempting to make contact with the task force mole who has infiltrated the Syndicate to get what information he has. By the time she reaches him though, he's already dead.
It's Chung. I found him.
Dead?
Yes, sir.
Keep moving.
It doesn't take long for Kanoko to realize that this was a diversion to distract the task force from the Syndicate's real plan.
I found a datapad. It's an encrypted shipping manifest that links the warehouse to Masashi Manufacturing. I want to go check it out. It's not far from here.
Well done, Kanoko. Fall back. I'll have you picked up.
Musashi is owned by BGI. According to your latest report, BGI is a suspected syndicate front. If we can prove the connection, we can move against them. I can go in and...
Negative. Fall back.
We can't afford to wait for another team to arrive. We have to move quickly or they are going to get away.
She won't back down. Her adrenals have been rising steadily. Too much stress could destabilize her latency.
All right, Kanoko. I'm giving you a shot at this.
Thank you, sir. I won't let you down.
On to mission number 2. Kanoko gathers a few officers from the task force and heads over to a manufacturing plant. This right here should have been how the game started, in my opinion. The warehouse should have been a second level, and they should have reworked the story to have it start here. This is such a better level, and it's at this point that the game really starts to pick up and be fun. Okay, it's time to talk about the combat. ONI has a very unique take on its combat and controls. It's kind of like a beat 'em up with shooter elements littered in. There's a strong emphasis of martial arts at the core, but there are some shooting mechanics to toy with as well. Kanoko can dodge roll, jump, backflip, and slide. She's got the acrobatic movements she needs to be dangerous, but she's also got some pretty devastating close combat moves. She's got punch combos, kick combos, flips, and spins to take down her enemies. I actually unironically love this, even if it does control horribly. And when I say it controls horribly, I mean Kanoko doesn't seem to do what I'm telling her to do. I mean, it was released in 2002 on a shoestring budget probably, so it's not that big of a deal, I guess, but the potential for this game is immense if it could have just seen another 3 to 6 months of development and get this control issue sorted out. As for the shooting mechanics, they're very straightforward. You can carry one firearm at a time, and you run out of ammo often, so I wouldn't rely on them too much. They're really more of a contingency plan for if you run across an enemy who is also armed. Anyway, back to the game. I really enjoyed this level so much more than the previous one. I love that this feels like a real building somewhere, and if you interact with the civilian scientists, they often have a little bit of dialogue to say, and will even give you hypo health injectors. Pretty reminiscent of older games like Half-Life. I miss stuff like this. The level itself feels so much more like an actual espionage game. We're avoiding turrets, dodging lasers, finding terminals. It's genuinely pretty cool. At the end of this level, we face down the sort of final boss, where we have to avoid these laser beams and hack 4 different terminals multiple times to shut down this literal giant brain. Supposedly, this is an AI, what they call a deadly brain AI, that has gone rampant, and if allowed to continue, could destroy the entire city. Somehow. They didn't really explain it. I'm not sure what it is with Bungie and their fascination with AIs, but their stories continue to age extremely well as we walk into the new era of AI in our own world. This second mission would have been the way to introduce this game. The tutorial and first mission should have been scrapped or moved, and short tutorial messages should have been inserted across this one, because it wasn't until this level that I felt like I was finally playing the game I signed on for. So it turns out that this whole facility is a front for the Syndicate, and was also another diversion to distract Kanoko. We're heading into the third mission now, at the Vago Biotech Research Lab. On our way, the game shows us some dialogue between Kanoko's handlers, talking about her past, implying that there's more to her than it might seem. Get used to that, by the way, because it happens constantly throughout the game. Then we see some dialogue from our main villains, Moro and Barabbas. Real subtle. In fact, Mission 3 opens with us having to fight Barabbas, whatever, in a one-on-one boss battle, the first of the game actually. It's not too hard, but it is cool, and look at this aesthetic. Our protagonist facing off against this machine-human hybrid in the courtyard of a research lab as the sun sets around us. Beautiful. Actually beautiful. This is what I meant earlier about how the game did not put their best foot forward. Unfortunately, this is also where the game takes off the kid gloves and gets stupid hard. I'm going to keep it real with you guys. Getting footage for these videos is hard to balance around my life right now, and spending 30 minutes of the precious hour or two I have repeatedly playing the same section over and over again would make it take weeks to actually finish this video. So I used a few of the cheats in the game to refill my health and do some other things. Look, this game is brutal and the combat is not very polished. Kanoko isn't responsive, and it's pretty hard to get her to actually do what I'm trying to do. So yeah, I used some cheats. Fight me. I haven't really played more than like an hour or two of a Souls game before, but I'll tell you, this feels like a less responsive, far less polished version of that. Maybe one day I'll do a live stream of me playing the Dark Souls games to finally see what they're all about. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. Anyways, back to ONI. Beating this level really doubles down on the difficulty. Okay, so we work our way through this big room of green goo and give chase to the van with our enemy on it. At least we know where he's going though, so Kanoko pursues to an airport.
Oh, no you don't. You're not getting away that easily.
She's right behind us. Should I take her out?
No. Have the rest of the men meet us at the airport.
This level is kinda cool, and I really like the first half of it, but the second half loses its inspired design very quickly and becomes a long series of uninspired large gray rooms. One particular area really reveals a flaw in this game's design. I mean, look at this. I can't get past this dude because when I get even remotely close, he fires off his rocket launcher and kills everyone. It's really annoying, and the game has a bit of a habit of throwing multiple enemies at you, sometimes with guns that will shred your health and expect you to deal with it, which is fine to a degree, except that this game plays like a beat-em-up with levels designed for a third-person shooter and controls like an unfinished game. Either way, Moro gets away on a plane, but not before we get this cool scene.
I've been monitoring the woman tracking us as you instructed. Scanners indicate a standard comlink as well as a second set of subdermal transmissions. Analysis suggests that she is neurolinked to an SLD.
An android? Interesting. They must be using it to monitor her progress. I want it. Tell Barabbas to retrieve it for me.
Now, however, our headquarters are under attack and they're going after our android friend, which leads us to a really cool motorcycle sequence and arguably Kanoko's coolest outfit yet. From here, the game's plot gets really muddy really fast. The Syndicate has attacked our task force headquarters and Kanoko has to go in and stop the siege. Let me just say, I know a lot of the gameplay you're seeing might look fun, but it feels incredibly frustrating and unresponsive to play. I've seen footage of the game on PC and it looks way better. Like the aiming is more steady and the movement is less janky. On the PS2, as I'm emulating it, it does not play very well at all. Back to the plot, Kanoko cuts through the enemy soldiers and enables the power substations before sprinting to try and find our friend Shinitama.
No! Stay away! Kanoko! Help! No!
Gotcha!
Unfortunately, we're too late, and Barabbas takes her away, so we're forced to give chase to the roof and try to catch up to them. But there's nothing we can do. Barabbas stays behind though, and we get a boss fight where we get to take him on and finally put him down for good.
You again.
You can't escape me.
Who says I want to escape? Don't worry, Shinitama. I'm on my way.
This marks the halfway point through the game, but it really should have been more like the 75% mark instead. I'm gonna be honest, I was becoming exhausted with this game by this point. Kanoko gives pursuit to a massive facility called an Atmospheric Conversion Center, which is actually a cool idea both in the lore and just as a cyberpunk mission in general. Before she Batmans down into the plant, we get a flashback of her boss, Griffin, instructing her to not pursue Shinitama to the conversion center, which of course she ignores. What follows is an immense amount of running around these scaffoldings and around this conversion center as we slowly make our way down. Then we are shown a cutscene of Moro torturing Shinitama, which is really just there to reinforce that he's a psychopath.
I I'm impressed. You're almost human. Curious, why bother programming you to feel pain so intensely? Of course, pain is a necessary response to certain stimuli, but they could have dulled the sensation or given you a threshold that would limit the extent or depth of your agony. I'm glad they didn't.
After Kanoko finally manages to reach Shinitama, she's already done with, and we get a clip of her warning Shinitama that Griffin and the others are lying about her and who she is, before then exploding. No, really, she self-destructs.
What did they do to you?
You're not who you think you are.
What?
You are my Hasegawa, your father.
You're malfunctioning. Let me get you out of this chair.
Don't! He hurt me, Kanoko, badly. If you try to move me, I will probably die.
Why? Why did they do this to you?
I am an SLD, an android programmed with your brain engrams. I have seen everything you have seen, felt everything you have felt. They used me to monitor the growth of the chrysalis inside you.
I don't understand.
Sir, bioreadings indicate that the host is in close proximity to the SLD. The Ziox destruct mechanism is charged.
Did you get a waveform reading?
She's all over the charts. The change rate is unstable. It is safe to assume that her latency will rise steadily from here on out.
You don't know that for sure.
What is the yield of the device?
1.21 gigawatts, sir. We're confident it will be enough to destroy her at this proximity. Sir?
Give her a chance.
You heard the readings, Doctor. I can't afford to let her transformation continue uncontrolled. Proceed.
Shinitama, what's wrong?
I have just received a coded self-destruct transmission from TCTF Command. I can't stop the sequence, but I can slow it down.
I'm not going to abandon you. There has to be something I can do.
Goodbye, Kanoko.
No! Goodbye, Shinitama.
Detonation in 30 seconds.
That was dramatic.
I think it's supposed to be an emotional scene, but this game has not given us enough of anything at all for me to care about this character dying. Kanoko then has to fight her way through an entire facility of guards before they try to kill her with a giant fan. I actually didn't mind this part. After being betrayed by her own company and informed by Shinitama that her past is different than she's been led to believe, she breaks into a government building to try and extract any information she can about her past, which isn't a bad mission, I'll admit. This is where we're introduced to even tougher special ops enemies. As soon as she gets the information she wants, this special ops looking character comes in and hacks Kanoko out of the system before taking the data she needs in what is one of the most early 2000s cutscenes I've ever seen in my life. Then we do get a fairly cool chase sequence, and I mean cool more in concept than in actually playing it because this game controls terribly. At the end of this chase sequence we get another boss battle where we fight an assassin character, and I'll admit, this boss battle is kind of fun. Getting her hands on the CD containing who she really is, we move on to the next mission where the game kind of goes insane as we play through a pretty decently done dream sequence. So it turns out that Kanoko's real name is Mai Hasegawa, and her father hypothesized about the possibility of using something called the Deoden Chrysalis to advance humanity's capacity for adaptation. What is the so-called Deoden Chrysalis? Well, the way it's explained in the following mission is that it's the hyper-evolved clone of its host's body. As the host gets hurt or experiences stress, the chrysalis grows and heals its host. The side effect of the chrysalis has given Kanoko, or Mai as her real name, but I'm still going to call her Kanoko, special powers and abilities. After fighting dream versions of Moro, the game's main villain, and Griffin, who she feels has betrayed her, She then has to fight a dream shadow version of herself. It's a cool idea, and I liked how they did it. I also really liked this mission overall. It feels interesting and unique. The only problem is that this should have been the penultimate level, which is what I thought it was. It's not. So what follows this trippy dream sequence level are the most uninspired and worst levels of the whole game. Following this, she breaks into a science facility to confront Dr. Kerr, the scientist who's been looking after her, who she now knows is her uncle. And it just sucks, dude. I was so tired at this point. The game had really overstayed its welcome. After playing something interesting and stimulating like the previous mission, being stuck with what is essentially a filler mission filled with exposition feels painful. After finding Dr. Kerr, he agrees to help her by having her enter a machine so he can figure out how the so-called Deodan chrysalis is reacting to her body. This is where he explains what it is and also reveals that Muro, the purple-haired villain running around, is actually Kanoko's brother? Who could have guessed, right? Kerr then reveals that he was forced to implant the chrysalis into Kanoko's body to experiment on her as a super soldier to face and fight the Syndicate. I'll give them credit for one thing: the concept of a sub-clone that exists within the host's body hyper-healing and strengthening its host is actually a really cool one. Anyway, a soldier breaks in and kills Kanoko's uncle, Dr. Kerr. She then has to escape from the facility so she can go confront Griffin for forcing this experiment on her, which makes this the penultimate level of the game, which is literally just a reused level from before, and it does suck worse than it did the first time. After fighting our way through the task force headquarters again, but backwards this time, we confront Griffin and have to disable a weird, rewired version of Shinitama, which becomes borderline cyberpunk horror. He's trying to use her to protect himself from Kanoko. I actually vibe with this part. We finally get to Griffin, and we're given the choice to either spare him or kill him.
Emergency override, Griffin Alpha Zero. Emergency override. No, stay back!
Gotcha.
This is a bad idea. Put the gun down.
I'm a rogue agent, haven't you heard? Very dangerous. I'm exactly what you wanted me to be.
So, how does this end?
For you, badly.
That's your call. You can pull the trigger or you can walk away. It's up to you.
I decided to spare him.
I won't be the monster you thought I would be. Just remember what I am. The woman you betrayed because you weren't big enough to take responsibility for your own actions.
And now, we head into the final mission, as we assault the Syndicate Mountain compound. This mission is kind of cool, actually. I like the outdoor snowy environment for part of it. Here we have to stop Muro from completing his plan, which we now discover is to reverse the atmospheric processors and poison the Earth's total atmosphere. This will mean only people with a chrysalis can survive the environment, and they'll have to serve Muro to attain one so they can survive. It's a plot for world domination. That's it. That's what Muro's plan is. And the reason it's being explained right now at the last 98% of the game is because the game itself does not care about this plot. Seriously, you spend the first half of the game chasing Muro not knowing what he's doing, and the second half of the game running from the task force and trying to learn your hidden identity, then right at the very end, you suddenly go back to fighting Muro. Anyway, you know how this goes. Kanoko confronts Muro, and if you spare Griffin, he actually shows up with the task force to help you in the final fight, which is kind of cool, I guess. Then Kanoko defeats her brother, and that's the end of the game.
When I blew the processors, I bought us some time, but at a horrible cost. The dead and the dying now line the streets, but it's impossible to deny the problem any longer. My father's work may prove to be the salvation of the afflicted after all. Mankind as we knew it is doomed. The chrysalis will change us all. Let's hope it's for the better.
if it seems like I started rushing through that about halfway through, that's because I did. Let me break down my thoughts into 3 categories. I'll talk about the plot, the gameplay, and then the game overall. First up, the plot. ONI's story consists of its main plot and its subplot, and they're sort of in the wrong roles. The main plot is that of Kanoko's origin and her growth with the chrysalis in her as the task force observes her strength begin to accelerate, and then Kanoko unveiling the lies she's been told and confronting her mysterious past. The subplot is Muro, her brother, attempting to poison the whole world and sell chrysalises to anyone who will agree to serve him as he rules as a monarch. My issue is that the game does not seem to want to show me this subplot despite it being the only reason any action is happening and the core placement for our game's main villain, Kanoko's brother. Muro's motivation and plan isn't revealed until about 10 minutes before the credits roll, and this plot thread is barely ever talked about through the whole game. The game is instead focused entirely on Kanoko's past and the whole betrayal arc. It just sucks because that feels like it should be the subplot of the game, and even then, most of that doesn't matter until the last few missions anyway. Which leads me to my next point, the pacing and length. This game is too damn long. It's 14 levels and it should be 8. Not only would the game's pacing benefit from it, but imagine how much development time you could have saved cutting down on these missions and redirecting it to finishing the game's combat system and polishing it. Which brings me to the gameplay. This game feels unfinished. It really feels like I'm playing a beta build. I'm not even joking. I know that the game is old, but some of the enemy encounters feel very unbalanced and as though the game wasn't playtested properly. Which really sucks because the combat is genuinely fun and satisfying, but only for like the first few missions. Then it becomes painfully repetitive and dull. It's a beat 'em up with really janky gun combat. ONI should have been short and sweet, instead it's just long and arduous. And when I say it's fun and satisfying, I mean when it works. Because half the time Kanoko doesn't seem to do what I tell her, and other times she'll do things I didn't tell her, like roll me straight off a ledge to my death. It's just really hard to justify how much time they put into all of those levels, half of which look the same as all the others with minor differences, and most of which just have you running around pressing buttons to open doors. Okay, last category, the game overall. ONI's music is really good when it actually plays, and that isn't often. You'll spend far more of the game running around and fighting in absolute silence than you will playing to music, but when it does play, it's pretty great. I'd expect nothing less from the beloved Marty O'Donnell, who assisted on the score along with Paul Sebastian and Michael Salvatore. ONI's art style is impeccable. The loading screens, the mission failed screens, the character designs, all of that is really fantastic. ONI wanted to be like an anime video game, and as far as the art style, they really nailed it. The voice acting is even really good. They got Captain Keyes from Halo voicing your task force handler, which is of course a great choice, and the other VAs range from good to acceptable. It's never bad or phoned in. The big lingering question is, should you play it? Well, unfortunately, I've gotta say no. Despite everything this game manages to do right, the game itself just is not very fun to play, and the story is generic and predictable when it's at its best, and just totally derivative of itself at its worst. I do think this game has insane remake potential though. The modern climate game journalists are clambering over themselves to find and praise games with female leads, and you've got a great concept for a game with colorful characters, a cyberpunk anime art style, and potentially interesting plot just waiting to happen here. Remake this game and do a remaster of the old one and package it in with it. Do the remake ground up like Unreal 5 or something, and bam, you've got potentially a new franchise sitting there. You could probably even license a Netflix anime adaptation to go with it. I mean, come on, it's ripe for it. Take-Two Interactive currently owns the rights to the IP, so I have no doubt they could do something with it if they wanted to. If I was a betting man though, given this game has little to no fan base and was released to average reviews, I'm not sure I'd count on seeing a total remake, to be honest. Now a remaster? Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if they did a remaster, fixing some tweaks and porting it to modern consoles with an updated PC port. As for now though, I'm recommending we leave this one on the Retro Room shelf. If you're interested in it, just watch a playthrough. Thanks for watching everyone. This month has kind of been the month of Bungie, huh? Well, don't worry, I've got some other stuff coming up for you Star Wars fans, but for now, that's all I've got for you.
What do you think?
Dead. She has to be.
Shouldn't we check it out?
How do you suggest we do that?
Target neutralized, all clear.